The GPS died, the road disappeared, and the next sound I heard was a gunshot. But it wasn't a gun, it was my tire. And that was the moment we vanished into the forest. We survived the crash, but when night fell, the forest woke up. That's when we heard them and realized the accident wasn't our biggest problem. I thought help had finally arrived, until my dog started growling. That's when I realized not everyone who finds you wants to save you. I was trapped. He had a weapon, and my dog made a decision that changed everything. They said I survived by luck, but luck doesn't jump in front of a gun. Luck doesn't refuse to leave you behind. My dog didn't just save my life, he gave it meaning. The road wasn't supposed to take this long. Ethan Parker adjusted his grip on the steering wheel as his old SUV hummed through the narrow highway, cutting straight through the dense forests of northern Washington. Towering pine trees stood like silent guards on both sides, their shadows stretching across the cracked asphalt. There were no gas stations, no houses, just miles of wilderness. Even the GPS had gone quiet 10 minutes ago, frozen on a blinking blue dot. On the passenger seat sat Max, a golden retriever with soft amber eyes and a calm presence that always grounded Ethan. Max wasn't just a dog, he was family. After Ethan lost his wife 2 years ago, it was Max who filled the silence, listening without judgment, staying loyal when the world felt empty. "You okay back there, buddy?" Ethan said, forcing a small smile. Max wagged his tail once and rested his head against the window, fogging the glass with his breath. The sky had started to darken earlier than expected. Heavy clouds rolled in, and the wind whispered through the trees like a warning Ethan didn't understand yet. He thought about turning back, but the last town was nearly an hour behind him. Pushing forward felt like the only option. Then it happened. Bang! The sound was sharp, violent, like a gunshot. The steering wheel jerked hard to the left. Ethan barely had time to react as the SUV swerved wildly. The tires screeched against the pavement, and Max barked, panic flashing in his eyes. "No! No! No!" Ethan shouted, slamming the brakes. But it was too late. The car smashed through the weak roadside barrier and disappeared into the forest. Branches shattered against the windshield, metal screamed as the vehicle rolled, flipped, and finally crashed, plunging down into a deep ravine hidden beneath thick bushes and moss-covered rocks. Silence followed. A heavy, terrifying silence. Time passed. Minutes, maybe longer, before Ethan's eyes fluttered open. His head throbbed, warm blood trickling down his temple. The air smelled like dirt, fuel, and broken leaves. His body screamed in pain, but nothing felt broken, just bruises, cuts, shock. "Max," he whispered weakly. A soft whine answered him. Relief flooded Ethan's chest as he turned his head. Max was there, shaken, a small cut on his leg, but alive. The dog crawled closer, licking Ethan's face, his tail moving slowly. Ethan reached for his phone with trembling fingers. The screen was shattered, dead. No signal, no help, no idea how far down they had fallen. As night began to creep into the ravine and strange sounds echoed from the forest above, Ethan realized something terrifying. No one knew they were here. And deep in the darkness, something else was watching. The forest changed after dark. What once felt peaceful now felt alive in the worst way. Every rustle, every snap of a twig sounded closer than it should. Ethan tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through his ribs, forcing a groan out of him. The SUV lay twisted on its side, wedged between trees and rocks like it had been swallowed by the ravine itself. Max stayed close, his body pressed against Ethan's leg, growling softly toward the shadows. "It's okay, buddy. We're okay," Ethan whispered, though he didn't believe it himself. He checked his body slowly. Arms, legs, chest. Bruised, bleeding, but he could move. That alone felt like a miracle. Max's leg had a deep cut, but he was still standing, still strong. Ethan tore a piece of fabric from his flannel shirt and wrapped it around Max's wound. The dog didn't flinch, just stared at him with complete trust. That look broke Ethan's heart. The ravine walls were steep, nearly vertical in places. Thick roots stuck out like claws, and loose rocks shifted with every step. Climbing out in the dark was impossible. They were trapped. Ethan leaned back against the cold metal of the car and let out a shaky breath. His thoughts drifted, unwanted but unstoppable, back to the hospital room 2 years ago. The beeping machines, his wife's hand in his, the moment he promised he'd survive, even when she couldn't. He had kept that promise so far. Max suddenly lifted his head. His ears went straight up, his body stiffened. "What is it?" Ethan whispered. From somewhere above, deep in the forest, came a sound, low, distant, and unmistakable. A howl, then another. Wolves. Max barked once, standing in front of Ethan as if his body alone could protect him. Ethan grabbed a broken branch from the ground, his hands shaking. The rational part of his mind screamed that wolves rarely attacked humans, but fear didn't care about logic. The howls circled, closer now. Then they stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. No glowing eyes, no movement. Just when Ethan started to breathe again, Max began tugging at his sleeve. "Max, stop!" The dog pulled harder, whining urgently, then ran a few steps toward the back of the ravine, stopping to look back at Ethan. His behavior was strange, focused, intentional. "What did you find?" Ethan muttered. Every instinct told him to stay by the car, but another instinct, stronger, told him to trust Max. He pushed through the pain and followed. Behind a cluster of rocks, partially hidden by fallen branches, Max stopped. There, lying on the damp forest floor, was a backpack. Fresh, clean, not damaged by time. Someone had been here, recently. And as Ethan reached out to open it, Max suddenly growled deep and loud, staring into the darkness behind them. Because this time, the footsteps were human. Ethan froze. The forest behind them wasn't completely dark anymore. Moonlight slipped through the broken canopy, just enough to reveal movement. Slow, deliberate footsteps crunching against leaves and gravel. Whoever it was, wasn't in a hurry. Max positioned himself in front of Ethan, teeth bared, a low growl vibrating from his chest. "Easy, buddy," Ethan whispered, though his own heart was pounding hard enough to hurt. A figure emerged from between the trees. A man, mid-40s maybe. Thick jacket, muddy boots, flashlight dangling from his hand. His beard was unkempt, his face shadowed. When the light hit Ethan's eyes, he raised a hand instinctively. Hey, easy," the man said calmly. "Didn't mean to scare you." Ethan didn't lower the branch in his hand. "My car, we crashed. Our tire burst." The man nodded slowly, scanning the wrecked SUV, then Max. His eyes lingered on the dog longer than necessary. "Name's Caleb," he said. "I live not far from here. Heard the crash." Relief tried to surface, but something about Caleb felt off. Too calm, too prepared, like he had been expecting this. "You have a phone?" Ethan asked quickly. Caleb shook his head. "No signal out here. Never is." He glanced toward the ravine walls. "You're lucky I found you. Animals get bold at night." Max growled again. "Your dog doesn't like me much." "He's protective," Ethan replied. "Smart dog." Caleb's smile didn't reach his eyes. Ethan remembered the backpack. "That bag, yours?" Caleb hesitated, just for half a second. "Yeah," he said. "Dropped it earlier." Ethan opened it anyway. Inside were supplies, protein bars, bottled water, rope, and duct tape. A lot of duct tape. Ethan's stomach tightened. Before he could say anything, Max lunged forward, barking violently. In the same moment, Caleb's hand shot toward his jacket. Ethan reacted without thinking, swinging the branch hard. It struck Caleb's arm, sending the flashlight flying. Darkness swallowed them. "Damn it!" Caleb shouted. Max went for him, teeth snapping. Caleb stumbled back, cursing, then bolted into the trees. The forest swallowed him whole. Silence returned, thick, heavy, terrifying. Ethan collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Max rushed back to him, tail shaking, licking his face like he was checking if Ethan was real. "You saved me," Ethan whispered, his voice breaking. They didn't sleep that night. At first light, Ethan searched the backpack more carefully. Beneath the supplies was a folded map. Several red X's were marked across the forest. One of them was exactly where they were. And scribbled beside it in shaky handwriting were the words, "Easy targets, no signal." Ethan looked up at the endless trees surrounding them and realized something horrifying. The crash wasn't the worst thing that happened to them. It was the best. Because if they hadn't crashed, they might have driven straight into something far worse. And somewhere in the forest, Caleb was still out there, watching, waiting. Morning light barely reached the bottom of the ravine. The sun sat high above, but down here everything felt cold and damp, like the forest was deliberately keeping its secrets hidden. Ethan hadn't closed his eyes once. Every sound made his muscles tense. Every shadow felt like a threat. Max stayed alert, pacing, ears twitching nonstop. "We can't stay here," Ethan whispered, mostly to himself. The supplies from the backpack were the only reason they still had hope. Ethan rationed the water carefully, letting Max drink first. The rope looked strong, new. Whoever Caleb was, he had planned to use it. That thought alone made Ethan's hands shake. Using the rope and exposed roots, Ethan began the slow, painful climb upward. Every movement sent pain through his ribs. More than once, loose dirt slid beneath his boots, nearly sending him back down. Max went first, agile despite his injury, pausing every few feet to look back, refusing to leave Ethan behind. Halfway up, Ethan heard it. A voice. "You really shouldn't do that." Caleb stood at the top of the ravine, rifle resting casually against his shoulder. Ethan froze. Max barked furiously, straining against the rope. "I told you animals get bold," Caleb said calmly. "I didn't mean wolves." Ethan's mind raced. Running wasn't an option, fighting wasn't either. But surrender, that felt worse than death. "You don't want this," Ethan said. "We can just walk away." Caleb smiled. "People always say that." He raised the rifle slightly, but before he could aim, Max did something Ethan would never forget. The dog leaped. Max launched himself up the ravine wall, using the rope and roots, moving with pure instinct and loyalty. Caleb fired, but the shot went wide. Max slammed into him, knocking the rifle away as both of them tumbled out of sight. "Max!" Ethan screamed. Ethan forced himself upward, fueled by terror and love. When he reached the top, his heart nearly stopped. Caleb lay unconscious, blood on his forehead. Max stood over him, chest heaving, injured but alive. Sirens echoed in the distance. Real sirens. A search helicopter appeared above the trees, drawn by the gunshot, the crash debris, the open road nearby. Ethan collapsed beside Max, pulling him close, tears streaming freely. "You kept your promise. You kept me alive," Ethan whispered. As authorities swarmed in, Ethan looked back once more at the forest. He realized something profound. Max hadn't just saved his life that day. He had given him a reason to keep living. But as Caleb was taken away, One officer leaned in close and said something that chilled Ethan to the bone. You weren't his first, and Ethan knew the forest still had stories buried in it. The helicopter blades cut through the air as Ethan sat inside, Max's head resting on his lap. Every vibration of the aircraft reminded Ethan they were finally leaving the forest behind, but part of him knew it would never truly let them go. Max whimpered softly as a medic examined his leg. "He's a tough one," the medic said with a smile. "Lucky dog." Ethan swallowed hard. Yeah, lucky. But luck wasn't the right word. At the hospital, doctors confirmed what felt impossible. No broken bones. Bruised ribs, a mild concussion, deep cuts. Survivable. Max needed stitches and rest, but he'd recover. When Ethan saw Max sleeping peacefully under the bright hospital lights, his chest tightened with emotion he couldn't put into words. That night, a state trooper came to speak with him. "Caleb Morris," the officer said, placing photos on the table. Missing persons reports, years' worth, hikers, travelers, families who vanished without answers. He used crashes and broken-down vehicles, remote roads, no signal, same forest. Ethan stared at the photos, realizing how close they'd come to becoming another unsolved mystery. "You stopping him saved lives," the officer said. Ethan shook his head slowly. "My dog did." Weeks later, Ethan returned home. The silence of his house felt different now, not empty, but peaceful. Max healed quickly, his energy returning like nothing had happened. But Ethan had changed. Nightmares still came, but so did clarity. One morning, Ethan drove, carefully, to the local courthouse. He signed papers. Max officially became a certified search and rescue dog. Together, they returned to forests, but this time with purpose. They helped find lost hikers. They brought closure to families. Every rescue felt like rewriting the ending that almost took them. One evening, after a long day, Ethan sat on the porch watching Max chase fireflies. "You know," Ethan said softly, "I used to think I survived for no reason." Max ran back and rested his head on Ethan's knee. "I was wrong." Ethan looked at the sky, remembering the promise he once made in a hospital room, to survive. Now he understood. Sometimes survival isn't about escaping death. Sometimes